21 days until the midterms, and the key issues Democrats are driving home is one that Republicans have hammered over the last several election cycles, and it is health care. The Wall Street Journal lays out the number of political advertisements with mentions of the Affordable Care Act. Look at all that red back in the 2014 midterms. That is the number of Republican advertisements trashing Obamacare. Fast forward to 2018. Look at all the blue. Those are all ads the Democrats are running with pro-Affordable Care Act messages. And healthcare was front and center at the debate last night in Arizona between the candidates vying for retiring Senator Jeff Flake's seat. Democrat Kyrsten Sinema and Republican Martha McSally. These two ladies did not hold back.
The Obamacare model doesn't work. But when things came to a standstill and we were watching these individuals still not able to get access to health insurance, I sat down with my Democrat colleagues in the Problem Solvers Caucus, and we sat down to see if there's any way we can find some common ground.
We cannot go back to a time when people couldn't get coverage when they had pre-existing health conditions. So while Martha talks about a working group and part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which I am a proud member of, the reality is that we took the vote. And during the vote, Martha voted to repeal these protections.
Here's the good news. No matter who wins that race, it's going to be the first woman to hold that seat in Arizona. My panel back with me, A.B. Stoddard and Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney. Congressman, you are running for re-election. You are from a relatively red part of New York State. And for a while, we have talked about simply running against Trump is not the answer, because most people care less about politics than they do about just living a good life. Is healthcare a core focus for you?
Absolutely. It should be a core focus for everybody, and not because of the politics, but because we do this work to make things better. And healthcare costs too damn much, and we have made great gains on coverage, but we have not cracked the code on bringing costs down. And that is why the reforms in the Affordable Care Act that are around better outcomes at lower cost are the key. And that is where we must focus. We must turn healthcare into technology where we can do more for less every year. And we can. There's ways to do that. But I will tell you, when it comes to repealing patient protections that are in the Affordable Care Act, like pre-existing condition coverage, like keeping your kid on your policy till 26, like ending lifetime caps, people live and die by these things. And by the way, I'd include Medicaid expansion, which is critical to fighting the opioid epidemic, which is such a terrible problem in my part of New York, but also in so many districts around the country. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the political games stop and people's lives and their families are on the line, and they get that. And the cost is the number one thing for most people. Most people are just crushed by healthcare costs, and they feel like they're getting less for it. And into that vacuum, we need to provide solutions. And the Republicans have been bankrupt on this, and trying to repeal what we've got is not an answer to fixing what's wrong.
They're bankrupt on it now, but Republicans regained control of the House back in 2010, blasting health care. It's one of the things President Trump got elected on. He talks a big game about, for example, the economy. But when you go to actual states where people are running, AB, I don't hear Republicans talking about health care, which should be a victory lap, or the economy, which should be a victory lap.
No, this is the sleeper issue of this campaign. Democrats are not running on impeachment. They are running on health care. Republicans are not talking about it because they didn't repeal it or replace it with anything better, and they don't have an answer to the fact that premiums are spiking, particularly this month before people go to the polls. They have been for years. They're getting worse. But also because the individual mandate is gone, that has actually made the pools sicker and even more expensive. So this is a huge vulnerability for Republicans. They know it. They thought they were going to have a tax reform law to talk about, but guess what? Health care is now, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, is now more popular than the Republican tax reform law. An internal poll by the Republican National Committee weeks ago saw by 60 to 31% voters believe it only benefits the wealthy and big corporations, and they admitted we have lost the messaging battle on this tax cut. So they talk about the economy, they don't talk about health care, they don't talk much about taxes, and they talk a lot about sanctuary cities because that gains traction in some areas for them. This is not the campaign plan that they told us they were going to be running.
Okay, but there's a very big difference. When the president talks about the economy, what he's actually talking about, Congressman, is the stock market. And one of the things that's caused the stock market to boom is tax cuts. When you give corporate America double the amount of money on their balance sheet, you're going to see stocks go up. So take me local. Is the economy an actual winning issue? Because if you don't own stocks, I don't see that much.
Look, I wouldn't underestimate the fact that people feel better about the economy. We should celebrate that. But some of us who are adults have to say, if you pour stimulus on a pretty good economy already, you're going to get a short-term pop. I mean, I could have done 1,000 infrastructure projects the size of the Tappan Zee Bridge with the debt the president took on that tax cut. So which would you think would create more growth? 1,000 infrastructure projects the size of the Tappan Zee, or this? In
I'm
fact,
unfamiliar
in New York,
with the Tappan Zee Bridge. It's now called the Mario Cuomo.
Thank you. In New York, we have also lost our state and local property tax deductions in large measure. We are also facing the end of the individual mandate, which, by the way, was part of the tax bill. AB makes a great point. Those things are actually joined at the hip. And the fact of the matter is that the economy is doing well right now. But what some of us want to do is grow down our debt and deficit, do long-term investments in real middle-class job creation. Infrastructure is part of that, but only part of that. Training up our workers, redesigning our education system for the 21st century. I mean, there's a lot of work to do, and it's not an answer to say we're going to get a pop for a while with massive debt looming. The deficit is $800 billion now and growing. We're going to have $2 trillion annual deficits in a couple of years. That's what's happening, and we are going to have to fix this at some point.
Well, then we're going to see what people are going to vote for. We are living in a short-term world. Will long-term solutions be what people vote for?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.